the believer's resolutions. When you read the scripture, you will find out that there are things in the scripture that are God's direct resolution to a believer. That is, the things that are captured within the will of God. The things that God will be telling you that this is what I want you to do. Those things are within the resolution of God, within the discretion of God. Matthew chapter 11 verse 29, the Bible says, take my yoke. Jesus speaking, he said, take my yoke. He didn't force it on us. He said, take. Meaning that you can still say no. We are going to be looking at it to now know what does it mean. So some of these things or areas that we are left to make use of our willpower, those things that we are left, God decided to leave us to make use of our willpower, even when he can overshadow us by his willpower. We're going to see what they stand for and the implications of those things in our lives. If you look at the book of Ephesians chapter 6 verse 17, the Bible says, take the helmet of salvation. Take the helmet of salvation. Meaning that you can still decide not to take. You can still say, I don't need it. It's a way that God test and check our commitment and our spiritual common sense to know if you are growing wisely in following him or you are becoming foolish. He said, and take the helmet of salvation and the word of the Spirit. In Hosea chapter 14 verse number 2, the Bible reveals to us another resolution, something that is within your discretion, within your willpower. He says, take the word. Take the word. Take with you words. We're going to be looking at these things, their meanings and how they apply to us. In Luke chapter 9 verse 23, Luke chapter 9 verse 23, Jesus speaking in that place, he said, take your cross. Take your cross. He didn't say, I'm forcing my cross on you. Say, take your cross. This is where many believers fell. This is where many believers fell. And this is the point where the entirety of God's blessing lies. Where God can be blessing a Christian, blessing you, and people are asking, how is this one being blessed more than us? Take your cross. In Hebrews chapter 3 verse number 12, Apostle Paul speaking in that place saying, take heed. Take heed. Meaning that someone can still say, I don't want to take heed. The word heed means careful. Someone can say, I don't want to be careful. I don't want to be careful. Take heed. The word heed means attentive, attention, observant. In Joshua chapter 22 verse number 5, the Bible speaking in that place, it says, take diligent heed. Take diligent heed. Taking diligent heed. Remember that we are talking about the believer's resolution. The believer's resolution is the part of our walk with God, which is scriptural, where God has decided to leave decided, in order to check our commitment, our obedience, and our trust on Him, He has left those things to our own willpower. There are scriptures you read, you will see where God says, "It is my will. I want you to do this. This is what I want you to do." But when you read some other scriptures in the Bible, you find out that God is not forcing it on us. But that does not mean that it is not something important, but He wants to check. Now, look at the objective. The objective of the believer's resolution is that God wants to check your commitment, your trust, and your obedience to Him. That is the objective. So that if I ask you what is the objective of God in concerning believer's resolution, you'll be able to say, to check our commitment, our obedience, and our trust to Him. And a Christian that is not wise, or an unwise believer, will think that those things are optional, that God is presenting option, that you can either do it or not do it. No, He wants to check your commitment, your obedience, and your trust. We are going to be starting with the first one, Matthew chapter 11 verse 29. Matthew chapter 11 verse 29. Jesus Himself talking in this place. He said, "Take my yoke upon you and learn of me." But I want to tell you what Jesus is trying to say here. He said, "Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest unto your soul." What does Jesus mean by this? Is not the difference between the yoke of Jesus and the yoke of the devil is that the devil puts his yoke on people, but Jesus is asking you to take his yoke upon you. The difference between the yoke of Jesus and that of the devil is that the devil forces his yoke on people. He put his yoke on people, but Jesus here is not saying that He will put his yoke on you. He can do that, but He said, "Take my yoke upon you and learn of me." So taking of this yoke of Jesus upon you is a way to learn. So we're going to be looking at what is that thing that I am to learn by taking the yoke of Jesus upon my life. We're going to be looking at it. What is this yoke? Then what is it that I am to learn by taking this yoke upon my life? The yoke of Jesus simply means your commitment, your unbridled relationship with Him. Your unbridled relationship. Your commitment. Your relationship with Jesus that cannot be questioned. In our relationship with God, with Jesus, it is something, child of God, it is something that is left to your own will and your decision. Nobody is forcing it on you. God is not forcing us to build a strong relationship with Him. It is something that is within your own resolution, your own discretion, your will. That is why anybody that wants to serve God will personally decide if he or she wants to serve God. Nobody will force you. But there is something that I found at the tail end of that scripture. He said, when you do this, there is something you will learn. We're going to see that thing that we will learn. Now, He didn't stop there. He now revealed to us the benefit. He said, you will then find rest. You will find rest for your soul. That phrase, finding rest unto your soul, means that there is something that you will benefit from that act. A lot of believers that are in church are not finding rest. They have nothing that they can boldly say that this is what I am enjoying in my following God. Why? Because they have not taken the yoke of Christ upon themselves. He said, take my yoke upon you. He said, I'm not forcing this yoke on you. I'm not forcing commitment. Remember I said that yoke here, the yoke of Christ is not bondage. It's not like the yoke of the devil. The difference between the yoke of Jesus and that of the devil is that the yoke of the devil put it on you by himself. Yes, he forces it on you. Bondage is the yoke of the devil. Captivity, he puts it on you. But the yoke of Jesus is that you are the one that will decide to take it on yourself. And this yoke here is not negative one. It means commitment. A height of commitment that is so amazing. Unbridled relationship. Loving Jesus like nobody else. Loving Jesus with a difference. Following Jesus in a way that people look at you. It looks as if you are the only one that Jesus died for. In fact, they are beginning to mock you the way you follow God. They say the church thing is becoming too much on you. It's okay, yes. I am now beginning to carry the yoke of Christ. This thing about God is beginning to make you to misbehave. If that is what misbehaving is all about, it is a good misbehavior. It's a good one. Leave that one for me. Because a lot of Christians don't want to take the yoke of Christ upon themselves. And let me say this to you. The easiest way for the yoke of the devil to live your life is by taking the yoke of Christ. The easiest way for the enemy to move out his yoke, his bondage upon your life as a Christian is by taking unto yourself the yoke of Christ. And I've told you that this yoke of Christ is your commitment. The yoke of the devil is captivity, bondage, slavery, and he puts it on you. He doesn't ask you to choose. This one, Jesus said, take my yoke. The devil will say, I put my yoke on you. I put my yoke on your family. I put my yoke on your marriage. I am putting it on you. But now Jesus said, I leave that decision for you. Take this yoke of mine, put it on you, and you will learn of me. So we're going to be learning. When we take this yoke of Christ upon ourselves, that is committed Christianity, down to earth kind of dedication to God. What do we stand to learn, and what do we stand to gain? What do we stand to learn, and what do we stand to gain? What do we stand to learn if we take the yoke of Christ upon us, and what do we stand to gain? We are going to start by what we are to learn. I will now show you what we are to gain. One thing with man is that every man, the nature of a man, there are many things that are within the nature of man. One of the major things about the nature of man is self-freedom. I didn't say the freedom of God. Self-freedom. Where you will be doing something and nobody checks on you, nobody rebukes you. Self-freedom is one of the things that man is suffering. And in your walk with God, if you conquer this very particular attitude, you have started serving God in a different dimension, where you no longer look at what will go well with you, what force well with you, but you consider if that thing will be okay by God and okay by the people of God. And anybody that tells you that this thing is not okay, you admit and you correct yourself. And when a child of God begins to walk in this dimension, you willingly bring your neck, your life, and submit to Christ to be yoked together with him. Now, when Jesus was talking, Jesus knew very well that he's not forcing us into relationship. God is not begging you to love him, child of God. God is not pleading with you to get committed to him. That was why he said, take my yoke upon you. Do it willingly. Do it by yourself. That's what we call believers' resolution. You have to make that resolution. You have to make that decision to be committed. This yoke here speaks of commitment to Christ, following him without looking back, not considering anything or anybody, whether the going is okay or it is not okay at the moment. You are still connected to him. He said, when you come into that dimension of relationship with him, he said there is something you will learn, and not just what you will learn, there's something you will gain. The reason why believers are no longer learning anything in their walk with God, because they have not taken the yoke of Christ upon. The first thing before you begin to learn mysteries, if you see any pastor that has started delving into mysteries, a Christian moving into mysteries in God, just know that that Christian, that pastor has taken the yoke of Christ upon himself. It's a dimension, it's a reign. He has taken that yoke, because when you come into that dimension, into that place where you have taken, not God that has forced it on you, have taken that yoke, there are things you begin to learn. God will begin to teach you. Then there are levels of rest, things you are going to begin to enjoy. So now, what did Jesus mean when he said, take my yoke upon you? I won't put it on you. Use your hand and take it. Use your hand and take it. Do it with your own heart, your willpower. I'm not forcing you. I'm not going to force you to love me. Decide loving me by yourself. That's what Jesus was talking about here. Take my yoke upon you. I am not going to force you to be dedicated to me. Decide the level of your dedication to me. Take my yoke. I won't force it on you. You have to go in for it, so that tomorrow you will not stand and say, oh Lord, you have disappointed me. I didn't want to agree to this thing. I didn't want to accept this thing, but you forced it on me. No. He said you are the one to take it. He said, but when you take it, you stand to learn something that other Christians don't know. Look at it. They say, take my yoke upon you and learn of me. Learn of me. And not just that you will learn, it says you will find the rest. There is something to learn and there is something to gain. Now when you take the yoke of Christ upon you, you are saying, Lord, I am coming into an inner relationship, intimacy that is not ordinary, a deeper intimacy that cannot be questioned. You can, at this point of taking the yoke of Christ upon you, you can follow Jesus in pain. You can follow him in pain. You can, at this point of taking the yoke upon you, you can follow Jesus even when everything is turning against you. You know, we have this song that we are so much in love with. I can see everything turning around, everything turning around, everything turning around for my good. When you take the yoke of Christ upon yourself, you will begin to, you might start seeing things turning against you. You still remain and stay. You start, you are following, and things are turning against, not around for good, turning against you. You stay because you decided. He didn't force the commitment. Can I say this to you, child of God? There is nobody that is following Jesus today that Jesus forced you into the relationship. That's why there are many people, plenty number of people that are still outside there, not in relationship with Jesus. How come that you are treating that relationship as if you were pleaded and begged to come in? Sometimes when I look at it, my heart breaks. Nobody, there is no one place that the scripture, Jesus did say, I'm begging you, come into relationship with me. No. You walked into that relationship. You saw this, you accepted it, you came. Now, many of us, many Christians today are taking this relationship so lightly because they are doing it as if somebody forced them.